The ultimate law in the United States of America is the United States Constitution as it is amended. The first part of the First Amendment to the Constitution reads, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." That First Amendment has been in effect since December 15, 1791, and of course it's open to question as to exactly what that means. Who interprets the meaning of that law? About 175 years ago, Chief Justice Marshall of the Supreme Court said, "I do," and ever since that the Supreme Court has been shouldering that burden. They've made a number of decisions as to how to interpret that particular phrase about religion, the establishment of religion. Regardless of whether it's been a conservative court or a liberal court, the decisions have been unanimous that the federal government shall not give precedence or preference to one specific religion over another. It shall not prefer one religion at the expense of another. One religion shall never become the state religion at the expense of all the other religions in the U.S. It's this business of showing favor or preference for one against the other that the Supreme Court has been unanimous about. And the reason that this should not be here is that this monument represents a specific religion. It is not a general plaque celebrating religion in general. There are other plaques and monuments on the grounds here that mention God. This particular one is a Judeo-Christian monument and nothing more, and let me explain why. The little symbol down at the bottom, I hope you can see it, looks like a P and an X there. That is what is called a Chi Rho. That's from the first two letters of the Greek word for Christ. That is the oldest historical symbol that represents Christianity, and to either side, just exactly opposite that, are two stars of David, the six-pointed star. It doesn't especially matter that the Christian symbol, the cross, was taken from an Egyptian religion, or that the Star of David was taken from the worship of the Mother Goddess that preceded Judaism. The fact is that to everybody who understands religious symbolism, these represent Christianity and Judaism right now. That is what makes this a religious monument. By placing this here on the Capitol grounds, you're giving one religion precedence over all the other religions who have followers in the United States. That is what the First Amendment was written to avoid. That's why the Supreme Court has said it's inequitable to show preference for one at the expense of another. The other little goodies that have been etched into this or cut into this monument are these two little whatsits up here, and I call them whatsits deliberately because the Texas State Preservation Board says we don't know what they say. They have some Greek characters in. That, of course, is anachronistic. It's supposed to represent the Ten Commandments, the two tablets of stone, which, according to the fairy tale, were handed to Moses. We know this is a fairy tale because Moses wrote about this. This is the same Moses who described his own death after the event. So we know this is a fairy tale. These little things are supposedly Proto-Hebraic. That's the Masonic all-seeing eye. So much for all the little religious signs on this monument. This says, "I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain." And don't make any graven images such as this. "Thou shalt have no other gods before me" is spoken by this Judeo-Christian monument. That is in direct violation and contradiction to the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, which says you shall not give preference to one religion over another. They cannot be reconciled. They're absolutely opposite in meaning. This thing should be out of here. If it has any place other than in a landfill, it is in some churchyard. It should be hauled off and erected in some churchyard. It does not belong here. There are a number of interesting little points about the various commandments in here. We find one that says, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." We find one here that says, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's maidservant." That word translated correctly means slave. The reason for this adultery commandment is that a woman's considered to be the property of her husband. She was considered to be an animal. This is a female slave. The instruction in this code of conduct is for men not to damage the property of other men. It's a covenant between men. Women have nothing to do with it. It was the official position of the Roman Catholic Church for about 2 centuries that woman had no soul. She was considered to be, and I quote, a beast of burden. This Ten Commandments is very much inferior to other codes of conduct that existed at the time this was made in about the 7th century BC. As old as the Sumerian civilization, millennia ago, we had better codes of conduct. There was the famous Code of Hammurabi about 2000 BC that did specifically give women equal legal rights with men. That is something that this denies. If the Code of Hammurabi had been handed down to us today, we'd find no reason not to put it on capital grounds. It does not have an element of religion in it. This, which celebrates the oppression of women and has for the last 2,000 years, should be an outrage to every person who sees this. Every Baptist wife, every Mormon wife, every Methodist, every Lutheran wife, every Catholic wife, every Jewish mother should be outraged that this thing still exists and is celebrated. Well, so many people should be outraged, and if this is what it actually represents, who put this thing here and why did they put it here? This monument says at the bottom it was erected here in 1961. And if you think back a little bit, that's before prescribed prayer was done away with in the public schools. It was about 6 years after In God We Trust was put on the United States currency. There was a great movement in the 50s, late 50s especially, to make Christianity or Judeo-Christianity the official religion of this country. Well, it peaked about 1960 and has failed. Essentially, these are dying religions, but it came very close to establishing itself as the main religion in this country. And this is one of the offshoots. This was put up by the Fraternal Order of Eagles, and they, at the same time they got this put up, they tried to get a similar one put up on the state capitol grounds in every state in the United States. In some they succeeded, in some they did not. Well, you might ask, who exactly are the Fraternal Order of Eagles? They are a fraternity, as their name indicates. From their inception, they have refused, they've allowed only white men to join. They're quite racist. There was a black lady who went into one of their halls to get a drink of water for her son back in, I think it was 1989, and they said, "Get out of here, you're not welcome, this is an Eagles Hall." And she happened to have some resources, and so she sued the Fraternal Order of Eagles, and it went up to the appellate level in a federal court, and it was ruled that as of 1990, the Fraternal Order of Eagles is still racist. It's a racist organization that put up this monument to the white man's religion. It was not intended to apply to any black man. Any black person who knows his religious history would not want to be a Christian. But that's getting a little away from the subject. The point is, this thing does not belong on public property. If this were to be knocked down, and if you lean against it, you'll see that it tips. You can tip it about a foot or two. It's not a stable monument. Who is going to come out here and make that thing stable? They're going to call up state maintenance workers, again at our expense, to make this thing more stable. This thing was moved and then replaced during the extension of the Capitol Annex here a couple of years ago. Who did that? Who paid the salaries of those men who moved it around then? All that money is coming out of our pocket to preserve this thing, to polish it, to preserve it for the last 40 years in a place where it has no business to be. This is a direct violation of the separation of church and state, and that's why we as atheists are adamantly opposed to it. If there's anyone who has a great deal of money to pay an attorney to take this into court, if you pursue it far enough, this thing can be removed because it's been removed elsewhere.
This capital has been punished enough. Religious artifacts should be removed from government property.